Is it working now? My lord. It just said I had a failed broadcast. I don't know what that means. I know. It should be good now. I'm afraid to do anything else. All right, I'm going to bring up some stats and we can talk about it a little bit more. This is all my bad. All my bad. But so far, I think the groups have been honestly pretty well distributed talent wise. Like, I don't think there's, usually most year, yeah, usually most years you got a pretty good idea of who's gonna flow through to the finals, right? And who's gonna get last place. But this year it's looking a little bit more kind of evened out, and I don't want to say fair, but like everyone's kind of got a shot depending on how well you do and how strong you're feeling. So I'm going to we'll talk about Group 1 right now. So we got Kordiaka, I think that's how you say his name. He's been from the Ukraine. I think he's the smallest competitor. Easily, I would guess it's between him and Odouar, on who is probably the lightest and smallest guy pound for pound in this competition. I don't know who else would be smaller than him. Maybe, yeah. I don't think he's that big, so. But he's just been on a tear. He won that Giants Live contest not too many weeks ago, so that's awesome that he's in here. He's doing really good. Welcome to my viewers again. This is Tuesday Trainer Talk, where we just bullshit while I drink my my green shake and my coffee in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today we're doing a little summary of how World's Strongest Man is going. We started day 2 of the qualifier, so just going over that. But Group 1, Kordiaka, he's been doing great. I think he won 2 events so far. He got second in 1, so he's got a pretty good point spread on people. Bobby Thompson, he seems to be doing pretty good. I heard that he's one of the best log pressers in the world, arguably one of the best log pressers in the world, and he's doing pretty well. He did good on the deadlifts. I heard he had some cramping issues. Same thing with the log. He did come out and say, hey, if anyone hits, all 5 logs, that's super, super impressive. So those logs must be really, really challenging, or whatever their progression weight-wise they chose, because I don't know. I haven't seen what the exact weights were for the logs yet, but yeah, that's pretty impressive. And then Conan's wheel, he's finished 3rd on it, looks like, which isn't bad. Then we got Tom Stoltman, so Britain's Strongest Man, I believe he's won that before. Also arguably one of the best log pressers in the world, and he did pretty good. He won the log. So Tom, shoot. Tom's in 3rd right now after Conan's. That's not good. So, Tom Stoltman, I got him confused. I got Luke and Tom mixed up, but Tom is a 2-time World's Strongest Man. He was doing really well day 1, but he just started day 2 off with a last place performance on the Conan's wheel. So right now it's looking like, unless he destroys everyone on the kettlebell toss, which he's probably not bad at because he's tall as hell and has really long arms, so he's got the levers for it. Unless he wins that, and what am I looking here? Pavlo would have to get 3rd or less, I think, to get it. to that's the only way. He needs to win the kettlebell toss to get a buy-in, to get an automatic bid into the finals. And then right now it's pretty much looking like we don't know exactly who's going to be first in Group 1, but it's going to be between Kordiaka, Thompson, and Stoltman. Going down to Group 2 so far today. Ooh, Alexi's good, which we're going to talk about him right now. So he won in 2020, I believe. So Alexei Novikov, also from the Ukraine. The Ukraine is, I mean, they always had some very good strongman athletes. In the mid-2000s, the issue with it was I think a lot of those strongman athletes did IFSA and didn't do World's Strongest Man route. So they didn't do Metrek's World's Strongest Man. They did IFSA's World's Strongest Man, which, you know, I enjoyed. I thought IFSA was a better show, better competition overall, but it died out. There wasn't money. A bunch of other things were happening, I guess. But he's destroying everyone. So he got first place in the loading race. So he did all 5 implements, got the maximum 6 points. He won the deadlift ladder in his group, which luckily I'm looking at the reps they did. Most people aren't getting, like, a 6-rep day is pretty good. 7+ is outstanding for this machine, it looks like, with the weights they're doing. But he got 6 reps, so full points there. He got 4 of the 5 logs, got 3rd in that event, and then he just smashed, absolutely smashed the Conan's wheel. Full points there, almost 900 degrees. So for people who don't know, Conan's wheel, it's a fixed pole that extends out with weight on it, and you pick it up. It has a pivot point at the center, and so you're walking in a giant circle around this pivot point. So you pick it up in a front rack, a Zercher kind of position, and take a little stroll. I've done it once. Zahir was cheering me on. It's a hard event to train for, 1. 2, I think it's one of the most miserable events you can do, period. I picked it up, and when I was doing that contest, I think it was the 4th event of 5, and I just remember picking up and taking my first steps, and I had started to black out already, and luckily it was fixed, and I just kept one foot in front of the other until I couldn't keep going. But that's super, super impressive to go 900 degrees. That is, I'm curious. I want to know how much the weight in the arms are. Tom Evans from the USA, he's doing really good. I believe he was not also on the start list. He was like the backup of a backup. So he's currently sitting tied for 2nd place in Group 2 with Luke Stoltman, which is amazing. But Luke came in. He has been didn't do great in the loading race. He did all right. He got all 5, but he wasn't super fast. 5 reps on the deadlift, which was a 3-way tie, so that split points up for that group a lot. Let's see what else we got. Log ladder, he did all 5. Took him a little bit longer than everyone else. Only went 545 degrees, so what would that be? About 1.5 full rotations. Tom Evans right there, 15 points. It's all up for grabs. That stone off is going to be interesting between. That's my guess right now is it's either going to be the stone off is going to be between one of these 3 guys, and it's either going to be Stoltman, Evans, or Bilton, which we'll hit in a second. But as I said, Tom Evans, he was a reserve athlete. People pulled out, injuries, things like that. He took their spot, so really doing a great job. He did pretty well in the loading race, got all the implements. That's the most important. Got 4 points, 5 reps on that deadlift, so it was a 3-way tie for 2nd. All 5 logs pretty quick, so he was the fastest time for that group, which is insane because Luke Stoltman, as I said, and when he's in shape, best log presser in the world. But that Conan's wheel, 69 degrees, which, haha, nice. So he gave us that at least, but last place on that, so only 1 point. Then we got Gav. He's sitting at 14. He's doing all right. He's not doing bad, but he's pretty close on points. So there's been a lot of those events that guys have kind of tied on. We'll kind of move on from there to Group 3. Group 3 is kind of it's an interesting group because there's a clear favorite in it. Mitch Hooper is destroying. He's won every single event. So I think so far he is the only person who has won every event in his group. So he got first place on the loading race, first place on the deadlift with 8 reps, first place on the log, and then first place on Conan's right now. Although their Conan's wheel group, I mean, Alexi's just been insane, but all these guys got pretty good numbers in comparison to the other groups. They're not doing too shabby, but so he's in first place for that group. Rag from New Zealand, he's got 18.5 points. So at this point, it is a fight. It's looking like it's going to be Mitch Hooper's going to go through the finals no matter what, because even if he, well, I guess not. No, even if he gets last place on the kettlebell toss, he's still half a point ahead of everyone else. So he's automatically in the finals after that event, which is awesome. It means he doesn't have to try on that kettlebell toss. He can save his energy and kind of reset. But it's looking like it's gonna be Rag versus Smarkselis. I think that's how you say his last name. Ivers from Latvia, who he's just, everything I've seen about him, they've got that kind of mentality of, I'm here to put the work in, I'm going to do the work. So I'd love to see Ivers make it through. I don't think he's bad at kettlebell toss, so he could bring himself up. Zahir, if you're still in chat, it doesn't matter. No matter how kettlebell toss goes, second and third place are going to have to do the stone off either way, right? I'm just going to leave that there. But kind of a semi-disappointing performance for the next guy, Graham Hicks. 10.5 points right now. Didn't complete all the implements, so he got last place on the loading race, which is unfortunate. I know he's been having some issues with some upper respiratory things. He did really well on the deadlift, got 7 reps, which is impressive and good. Again, hard from what it looks like and what I've seen in videos that I've managed to find. That machine looks like it's really kind of thrown people off. It looks like they're pulling from lower than standard bar height too. I don't know if you've seen any of the deadlift videos, but I think that bar's sitting just a little bit lower, so it's almost like it's from a slight deficit, which would really throw people off. Surprisingly, I think this took a lot of people who are strongman fans. He only completed 4 of the 5 logs, which is not great. Granted, he did them really, really quick. If he had hit that, if he was capable of that 5th log, I think he honestly probably would have won that event. I don't know what was going on, if he just got gassed out or if he was doing his strict press thing because his push press isn't working. But yeah, those medleys really can kind of catch up to him. And he did got last place in the Conan's wheel, so surprisingly not doing so great. 10.5 points. Then we got Iowa's own Spencer Remick, first showing ever at the World's Strongest Man. Got that invite, really has put a lot of work in over the last decade, so it's awesome to see him here. Did all right during the loading race, got 3 points there. Got 5 reps on the deadlift, which isn't bad, especially for your first time there. He's also kind of, again, he's at that point where he's just under the freaks, but is still dangerous enough where if the freaks mess up, he's gonna take them. Log ladder, he did really well on 4 and 38 seconds, which sadly only got him 1 point, but he just missed that 5th log, which would have made a huge difference for his point spread. That was unfortunate. If he had hit that 5th log, He would have, I believe, when he attempted it, he would have been around that. He would have gotten third most likely. So it's unfortunate that happened, but Conan's wheel, he didn't do too shabby on 470 degrees. Again, fairly competitive with some of the other ones, but still a little bit below it. Granted, he's not as tall as these guys. He's not as big as these guys, which is crazy because if you see him in person, you're like, this man's a giant. But kind of the most disappointing option is Kieliskowski is out. He's been eliminated from the stone off, so there's no chance that he can make up enough points to be in it. Where technically, if things went really, really well for Spencer, in theory, if he won the kettlebell toss and got full 6 points, he'd bump up to 14.5. I still think he technically can't get in there. But if, you know, it's barring things going really, really crazy for people, it's looking like we're going to have Hooper going through to the final and then Rag versus Ivers for the stone off, which will be exciting. Is the stone off happening today as well, or does that happen on another day? Is it here? Do you know? I haven't been following too much. So group 3, that was group 3. We're going on to group 4. This is a pretty, I think it's been a surprising group for people, because I think when people saw kind of who was in this group, they automatically assumed Brian's walking through this, which, you know, at the end of yesterday, he was doing really well. He was sitting ahead in points, but he did not do so hot today on the Conan's wheel to start off. So hopefully he makes that up on the kettlebell toss. I'm currently rooting for him just because I think it would be great for him to win that 5th title, kind of tie Marius, but at the same time unofficially kind of have the greatest kind of claim to being the world's strongest man ever, because he had that tie with Big Z where on the count back he lost. So he technically tied for first at 2010, 2000, can't remember what year that was, but he tied for first. When they did the count back, it ended up being whoever won the stones won the whole thing, and he lost the stones, or I don't remember how that whole debacle went, but he almost had 5 anyway. So it kind of, if you take that in consideration, Brian's probably one of the best, so it'd be awesome to see him get that 5th title. But Schwoonwinkel is sitting at 20 points, so doing really, really well. You know, destroyed the loading race. I think came out of nowhere. No one was prepared. Again, he was a reserve athlete. Got full points on that. Deadlift machine didn't do quite as well. Only got 3. Log ladder, he got 5 points, so he finished 2nd there, and then he got 1st in the Conan's wheel. So he's actually leading this group. This is a guy who wasn't even supposed to be competing, didn't qualify for it, and now he's leading his group. Right now, between really, there's no chance anyone other than the top 3 of group 4 are going back in to the finals. So we'll talk about the last 2 there. We've got Rano Heinle, who I love. I think he's hilarious. I think he's got he's a master's level competitor, so over the age of 40. I think he's 41 or 42. He did really good in the loading race, got 2nd in the loading race. He tied for 1st in the deadlift, and then he got 3rd place in the Conan's wheel and 3rd place in the log ladder. This group didn't do great on the logs, which is unfortunate, but he's sitting at 18.5 points, and right behind him is 4 times world's strongest man Brian Shaw, 17.5 points. All 5 implements, got 4 points, so 3rd place in the loading race, which is still pretty good. Tied for 1st on the deadlift, which was really, really helpful, and then won the log ladder for his group. So yesterday when he went in, he was leading on points was doing a pretty good job. And then today on the Conan's wheel, not the best performance he's ever had in life. So got second place, or not second, second to last, so fifth place on that today, which is unfortunate. But the kettlebell toss is one of his kind of preferred and best events, so that should go good. And then we got our final group, group 5. They finished the Conan's wheel. I'm curious to see how they all did, but we got a really, really close race for first place right now in that group between Evan Singleton and Trey Mitchell. So I would love it if both those guys got through, get some more Americans in the final. But for that group, it's also only the top 3 who have a shot. But Evans, 20.5 points. He first in the loading race. Didn't do great on the deadlift machine, but he tied for second, I believe. Second on the log ladder, and then second on Conan. So he's been very, very consistent over his events. So he's either finishing first or tying for second. So he's getting a good spread of points while also taking points away from other people. Trey Mitchell is sitting at 20, so only half a point away. So, you know, if Trey comes out right now, the situation for viewers is, again, if you win your group, you automatically get through. But if you get second and third, you have to do the stone off. So the ideal position is to win your group so you don't have to do a stone off, which is very, very exhausting because it's just you versus another guy. You lift the stone over, he lifts it over, and you just keep going back and forth until the other person can't do it. So if you're thinking about this as an energy expenditure, if you get caught in the stone off, you can win it and make it to the finals, but you're already going to be at kind of a deficit of performance for the finals. So, you know, right now, I don't know. I haven't really seen Evan or Trey do a lot of kettlebell toss. But if I was to guess group 5, I'm going to guess Evan and Trey go to the finals. Which one is more exhausting? I guess it just depends on, like, here's the thing with World's Strongest Man. This would be a different story, in my opinion, if it was a one-day event. If you were doing like the 6-7 events, like a typical strongman competition that takes place over 1 day or 2 days, where you don't have as much recovery time. So like in Mitch Hooper's case, where he's got to buy, there's no way he's not making it through. He's going to have way less because he's just going to have he's not going to have put his body through it. So it's not like you're not trying on these events still. So winning every event, I think, is probably the smarter way versus trying your hardest on every event and not winning and then having to do another event on top of it that is even more exhausting. I think the issue comes when you're trying to win every event and you don't, and then you get stuck in the stone off. So if your strategy is to, you know, make it to the stone off because you're a really good stone lifter, then that's a different story. But if you're not good at stones, you got to be trying to win everything else, in my personal opinion. So group 5, the guys who are going to make it through, I think, are going to be Singleton and Mitchell. Group 4, again, I don't know how Schoenwinkel is. I would love, like, my personal preference would be Rano and Brian both getting into the finals, but it's looking like it's probably going to be a stone off between the two of them, which is unfortunate for Rano, at least, because most likely Brian's going to win that, as formerly considered the best stone lifter in the world. Group 3, again, Mitch Hooper's making it through. I don't know how that stone off's going to go, but between Rag and Ivers, most likely. I would probably put Ivers ahead of Rag, mainly just because of experience, but I also know that Rag is very, very good at heavy stones and really good at stones. So he actually has a really, really good chance of also just kind of going in, which would be awesome. Just kind of an interesting story right there. Group 2, again, I think Alexi's in. Unless something really bad happens in the next event, he just has to do the event and get last. Like, he just needs to get one kettlebell over it or touch a kettlebell so he gets points. And he'll be at 23, and even if Luke gets first, he'll only be at 22. So he just has to do that. And then Group 1. Yeah, Group 1's way more interesting. You know, we could have a lot of upsets here, but if I was to put my money on it, I think Kordiaka and Stoltman are going to make it through Group 1. But we're going to see, because they should be all the Conan's wheels done now, so they should be getting ready and set up for kettlebell toss. But it doesn't look like that's happening till like 120 or something like that. So who knows? But I don't know what is that, an hour ahead of me, 2 hours ahead of me? I'm not sure. But overall, I think when it gets televised, I think it's going to be a pretty good televised show, because everyone's pretty close together and has the potential to win. So that's awesome, but we will see. Was that helpful, Zahir? Thoughts on Oberst and deadlifts? When you're asking me, like, what do you mean thoughts on Oberst? Just in general? Or... But, oh, yes, it was helpful. I did appreciate it. I do appreciate you asking questions. Oberst. I mean, there was a point, I'll say this, he's very good at capitalizing on his image and becoming kind of an influencer-ish type of thing. Again, anything I say, any pro strongman can just go like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, because I am not as strong as they are, right? But at the end of the day, if you look at his competitive history, there were times where he did pretty good, but at the same time, he was never really super impressive. He only had the log press. He wasn't abnormally good at the axle. He wasn't abnormally good at the dumbbell. I don't think his grip events were amazing. His deadlift was So it's like, in my opinion, if I was to, like, I think everyone at World's Strongest Man right now could probably beat Oberst in all the heats for the most part, at his best. You know, he had a bunch of injuries. I think he doesn't train maybe the most effectively. I'm not a huge fan of his political stances and things like that. But, you know, to each their own, live your life. But I definitely think, you know, there's this huge hype about him versus Eddie a few years back, about who was the better strongman, and it's just like, unless Eddie was hurt, he never lost to Oberst. And even sometimes when he was hurt, he still beat Oberst. So that was just something that I think Oberst was very good at, pushing people's buttons and getting people aware of him. He's someone who, it's all publicity is good publicity. He's an example of that, because he's honestly way more famous and followed than probably, I don't want to say what's worth it, but there are other people who are much better strength athletes and strongman who do not have nearly the recognition, or like Remick. Remick is a better strongman than Oberst is, or was. This is going to end up going out, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. But, But now his thoughts on deadlifts, I don't necessarily agree 100%. I would say I have all my clientele deadlift, but I also train people one at a time, and I make sure they're taking their time to get set and everything's right. Typically, if I'm not having someone, if they're not a strongman, if they're not a power lifter or a weightlifter or anything like that, I might not have them do super heavy straight bar deadlifts. But honestly, I like axle deadlifts for people. One, because it's not going to scrape shins up. It's going to restrict how much weight they can do, especially if we're just using no straps, stuff like that. And then trap bar deadlifts are pretty good too. Much safer variation and still train it hard. And there's so much accessory assistance work that you can do that kind of mimic a deadlift. That helps it go up. I mean, Andy Bolton used to say about how he very rarely trained to max, and he just did super, super, super heavy kettlebell swings all the time after his training sessions, and that helped his deadlift go up. So, even from that sense, there's a lot of other ways to train it. If you're trying to master the movement, that's one thing. But for general strength training, I don't think it's something that you need to do heavy or all the time unless you want to. That's the thing. If you want to deadlift, if it's something you enjoy doing, then do it. That's one of the reasons it's still in a lot of my programs is I enjoy doing deadlifts. People enjoy doing deadlifts. But again, we'll switch it up and do trap bar deadlifts or axle deadlifts or frame deadlifts. Just depends on what it is. You don't always have to stick with the standard barbell, which is important to know. And then, so that's kind of my thoughts on deadlifts in general right now, which, I mean, not super crazy or groundbreaking thoughts, but I definitely think there is a lot of positives that can come out of deadlifts and deadlift training. But at the same time, there is an inherent increased risk versus reward ratio there that you can't fully ignore, because there's plenty of evidence that supports that. So I get what he said. I don't 100% agree with it, but at the same time, he said it. He said it on Joe Rogan, so a lot of people heard it, and we're where we're at now because of it. That one went real viral, didn't it? Let's see. Power pin swings right now. That sounds absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. I need to get I need to do some of those swings as well, because not right now, just in general in life. It's in your programs. How many swings are you doing on the minute? Ooh, yeah, that tooth is still a little pissed. 75 pounds of plates times 20, then an ab wheel. Ooh. You want to talk about a miserable exercise. Ab wheels are horrible when you're a big boy. And when you've had fractures in your lumbar spine, they're not the funnest things. I need to do them more often. Those might be getting added to our deadlift day, Bill. Just fair warning. You might be doing some ab rollouts at some point. Yeah, I always feel like my low back is just going to snap in half when I do them. But I always had a little bit more of a belly back in the day, so that makes a little bit more sense. Oh, I just read that. I didn't see it say, and then an ab wheel. I thought you said, and then ab wheels. So I thought you were doing multiple reps, but PPT. Yeah. trying to think of any other controversial subject matter you want me to talk about or ask me questions about. Anyone else have questions in chat? I like this. This is fun. I wish I could do this all day. Just stream all day. People shoot me questions and I'll just ask them. I'll just answer them. Oh, good news for people who follow. I've recorded another podcast episode finally after like a year and a half, 2 years. But that was a while ago. But did that last night. Got to re-download my editing software since all that stuff was on my desktop and that's not working now. But the world's cheapest production valued podcast is going to be coming back, so go follow the journey, where they are and how they got there. There's some pretty good episodes on there at some point, but in the near future, hopefully, I've got one that will be featuring Corey Van Wyk. He was a strength and conditioning coach, been a professor. He's an acquisitions editor right now for Human Kinetics. For those who are not in the fitness industry, they pretty much publish every single informational book in existence when it comes to the profession, which is awesome. But finished that up last night and had a really good chat with him. So can't wait to clip the end and the beginning and the end, and then just upload it and get it going. Hopefully, I'll be able to get that done in the next few days. We'll see. But Zahir, if you want to be on my podcast, I'm more than willing to have you on my podcast. It's not really super exciting. It starts with where you're at, so you give your little spiel about what you're doing right now, and then we go back to when you were a kid, what got you into what you're doing, and kind of how you got to. You were inviting me on your podcast? Oh, I'm always down. If you tell me when. I don't know what you talk about on your podcast very often, but is it you just shoot the shit with people? I mean, we can do both. You can be on mine, I can be on yours. Mine typically is me just, I introduce the person, I give them their, oh, so you got done with college and then you went here. How was that? Type of thing. More or less guide the conversation, but the guest does the majority of the talking. But I like bullshit podcasts. They're always fun. I need to, I'm hoping when Remick gets back here in the next few weeks or so, getting something set up where him and I do a podcast, because I think that would be really good. We've already talked about it a few times. He's 100% down to do it. It's just more or less me not wanting to be a dick and add another stressor to his daily life while he was preparing for a bunch of competitions. So we talked about it last fall, and then he won official strongman games, did 2 Giants live events, and then has qualified for World. So it was more or less it can wait till after that. But I think that'll be a really, really fun one to talk about too, kind of where he started off, and then, that's a pretty good story, getting to World's Strongest Man level. But I'd love to. I want to have, if he's still in the chat, I'd love to have Bill S. Preston on my podcast, because he's got all sorts of fun stories about how he's gotten to the spot he is employment-wise. So I'd love to have him on to shoot the shit and tell his story to where he is now. And Zahir, I'd have you on. You can talk about how for a month you had one of the worst interim strength coaches to work under when you were in school at Iowa State. But yeah, I'm always open to it. My introvertedness makes me feel really bad about asking people to be on my podcast, though, so I very rarely do it. But I should. I got to do it. They're not hard to do. Legitimately, mine are so cheap. I Skype you, I record the Skype call, and then upload the audio to whatever the frickin' podcast source I use right now, which is also just like a very, very low quality podcast source. But that's part of what's endearing about it is, hey, it's just two guys, two people kind of shooting the shit with each other. The content's fun, but at the end of the day, it's more just talking and letting people explain their story. And if people want to listen to it, they can listen to it. You know, we had that storm, and it's so nice out now. It's so nice. Whew. Yeah, that cold sensitivity is. The fun shot stuff is starting to wear down, so I'm feeling everything in my mouth now. I gotta scroll up because I'm trying to see the chat. I know someone mentioned Elden Ring at some point. All right, so I think Elden Ring should be an event for World's Strongest Man. The next, do an event, then immediately Elden Ring duel. Guys, I would be so screwed. I mean, if me and Zahir were competing against each other, that might be entertaining. But we do 6 events, Zahir. You choose 3, I choose 3. And then we see who survives at the end. What would your 3 events be? I'll let you have your 3 first. Farmer, sandbag, and barbell. All right. So, farmers for distance, or oh, okay, you'll kill me on that. I never Zercher deadlift. I see why you chose it. How heavy does the sandbag have to do? Because technically we're in the same weight class. I call, okay. Mine's 287. I do have a 200 though. I'm down for that. That's not bad. I'd have to figure out how to get a 200, but, so you got Zerchers deadlift from the floor. So on a standard bar too, which is going to hurt. And then God, what would it be? Yeah, I'm trying to think. Deadlift for reps, but we're already doing that. Sandbag for distance. What else do we got? You got sandbag, you got a barbell, and you got farmers. So I would say I'd take that Zercher deadlift. We'd see how fun that would go. I feel like I would do. That's, you lift it up, put it on your knees, and then Zercher it the rest of the way, right? Or is Zercher deadlift legitimately picking it up in the Zerchers and standing? Or is what I just described a Zercher squat? I'm getting confused. Great, so you pick it up off the ground and your crook of your elbows. Dude, I don't know if I'm flexible enough to get down that far. Jeez. That would be awful. Awful. If you came up here, we could do it with the 3-inch axle, though. Farmers. Feel like we could do max farmer's weight for like 30 feet. 30 feet's not that long, right? You could do that. How heavy you think you could do max farmers over 10 yards? Right now, not great. I was gonna say, if I was at my peak, very impressive 350 per hand. I thought my shoulders were gonna dislocate when I did that. Granted, I was like 280, 286, That was in college. That was grad school. I was preparing for my first ever strongman, Quad City strongest man in 2015, maybe. Oh yeah, I haven't gone above 300 in so long. I know that I think in 2015 was the year that Brian Shaw was the guest judge, and I was in the stone off. There was someone in that. I just remember there. I think I got third or fourth. I can't remember exactly. I did horrible on the axle. I did all right on the deadlift. It was axle deadlift, but my strap broke on one of the reps, which was unfortunate. And then did really well on the frame, did really well on the yoke, and then it was stones, and it was just Brian Shaw there yelling at me to keep going. And I was like, oh, okay. If there's one person, I'd never touched stones before, so I was very, very happy with my performance that day. But yeah, there were like 3 people who were competing in the novice division who were not novices at all. I think it was like, there's like that 2015 to like 2019 was where a lot of people got a lot of flack for being like competing in the novice, or instead of competing in the pro, they were doing the open and just, you know, smashing the open. So I think the level of general fitness and training has increased so much that a lot of people can walk in and do a novice strongman competition and do very, very well at it. Yeah, because you were in the open, weren't you? Or did you do novice? I think you were open, right? Well, I did. I maxed out my 3 novice competitions. Mainly because the first one I was a super heavyweight. The second one I had nerve damage in my right arm. And then the third one I had a heart attack. So, holy crap, 30 reps? Jeez. Were the weights just stupid light? Because even at that one I did at the bar performance, like the weights were doable, but they weren't so light that it was super easy. Like on the deadlift, we did touch and go deadlift as many reps as you could in a minute or so, or a minute and a half, 90 seconds. And I think I did 20 and won that event. And I think the weight was like 405 or something like that, which for novices isn't too crazy from the floor. But geez, 13 reps? Damn. 29 on deadlift. What was the weight for the Viking? I've never done a Viking in competition. Mainly because they're very hard to find good ones to do. But also a pain in the ass to train for. I've got that landmine Viking handle I guess I could use to train for it, but I don't use that very often. Yeah. But yeah, that last one I did down in Missouri, that was still novice, but those weights were pretty decently, like, it was a heavier novice show. Because I think we ended up they changed the weights on us because of breaking equipment and stuff. So it was like I think it was like 215 on the barbell clean and press, It was 500 on the 520 on the deadlift, 220, 240 per hand on the farmers. It was a 240 sandbag, and I want to say the yoke was like 6 or 660. So I'm still, the fact that I won the farmers and the yoke at that contest still blows my mind. I'm not a fast moving person, but hopefully I need to get that stuff back in. I need to start training that again if I want to compete next in 2024. Need to get my moving events back down, need to do more conditioning, need to get the sandbag out and do some sandbag runs and sprints. So that's what the summer's for. It's getting nice out. We'll pull the sled out and do some sled drag work as well. But yeah, I'm interested. I want to see more team comps happen. If we can find a team comp that isn't too far away and too expensive from the both of us, we should do it, Zahir. I think that'd be hilarious. But any other questions? I believe I only have one viewer left. This has gone longer than its usual 30 minutes, and by usual I mean I've done this once, but it's what it is. So any other questions, concerns? The coffee I got today after the dentist appointment, they added, it's 3 shots of espresso in it, so I might die. It'll be exciting. But that's it. So thanks, Zahir, for asking the questions. I appreciate it. Again, the goal is for these to happen at like 8 or 9 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where I'm just going to sit down, shoot the shit with anyone and everyone who hops on. Hopefully I can be informative. If there's questions, if I don't know the answer, I'll try to find out the answer again. But thank you again for a trainer talk. It was great. I hope you guys have a great day. I will be not lifting today. No training for me today. It's an off day, which I'm happy about because my legs are toast from squats yesterday. But Friday's log press day, so it's 3x3 log press tomorrow, I believe. So we'll see how that goes. I'll probably actually follow the weights that are on the program, which are really, really light because it's based off my strict military press, which is nowhere close to my strict log press. There's a massive discrepancy between the two. So it shouldn't be too challenging, which will be good. That'll lead me into Sunday, which is deadlift day. Doing some rep work there, down deload day. And at the same time, I will be streaming a little bit later today. Not legitimately, I'm going to go in and eat. And then if you're not following it, follow the Beer Hall podcast. That's the other podcast, or other Twitch and podcast that I am part of. Follow the journey, where they are and how they got there. That is my own personal podcast that I do interviews with. And then also Matt Bark 1991 on Instagram and Bark Performance Training on Instagram. Give them a follow. Give me a follow on here. The great news is we've reached our first follower goal of 20. So now we're on that way to 50. We're working our way there, chipping away. So again, for everyone who watches this further down the road, for those who watched today, I greatly appreciate it, and we will talk to you later.